Coming up in today's bulletin, Prime Minister Jeremiah Manele reaffirmed Solomon Islands' commitment to the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development at the OPEC Development Forum in Vienna, Austria. The risk to external debt distress for Solomon Islands has gradually reduced since 2024, and the Judicial Symposium 2025, co-hosted by the Pacific Islands Foreign Fisheries Agency and the Chief Justice of Solomon Islands, the Honourable Sir Albert Palmer, officially commenced in Honiara today. Hello, you're watching SIBC's TV News Bulletin. I'm Cheryl Berra. Prime Minister Jeremiah Manele reaffirmed Solomon Islands' commitment to the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development at the OPEC Development Forum in Vienna, Austria. Manele spoke on a serious challenge faced by small islands developing states, SIDS, during a session titled Scaling Solutions for Vulnerable Economies. Despite these challenges, he emphasized the government's continued dedication to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals.
Solomon Islands remains deeply committed to realizing the transformative vision of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. In our case, we have embedded the SDGs in our National Development Strategy 2016 to 2035. Our midterm review of the National Development Strategy indicated that we are off track with respect to most of the NDS objectives and therefore most of the SDGs as well. To respond to these challenges, my government's policy is built on 4 pillars. First, unity and stability. Second, economic transformation. Thirdly, infrastructure development. And fourth, human capital development. The 4 pillars are backed by interministerial coordination and legislative reforms designed to unlock constraints to economic growth and improve the lives of our citizens. To transform our economy, we focus on the productive and resource sectors of the economy with emphasis on boosting export-based agriculture, growing our tourism industry, mining, and expand downstream processing of tuna. This focus has also been translated into our national budget with emphasis placed on supporting the private sector to lead economic transformation.
Manele stated that the current global financial systems do not meet the needs of SIDS and called for easier access to concessional financing.
Nevertheless, there is a need to strengthen SDG-linked financial instruments and incentivize SDG-related investments through highly concessional financing and risk mitigation mechanisms. We call for innovative solutions, including debt relief solutions, such as debt for GDP swaps and blue bonds. Moreover, I call for climate finance that is fast, predictable, and tailored to the needs of small island developing states, not entangled in bureaucracy. Reflecting on the above challenges and opportunities, we commend the OPEC Fund for its expanding role in climate-resilient infrastructure and adaptation financing. We believe the OPEC Fund is uniquely positioned to play a catalytic role in SIDS transformation by expanding its support in infrastructure finance, particularly in renewable energy, communications and transport, by strengthening fiscal reform and sovereign capacity, and by co-investing in blended finance mechanisms that de-risk private sector participation. The OPEC Fund can become a cornerstone partner for small island developing states. In that spirit, we propose the creation of a dedicated island resilience investment facility, and I think we have heard that that facility has just been launched, and we welcome that. We look forward to working closely with the OPEC Fund to accelerate and de-risk SDG-aligned projects across climate adaptation, energy, blue economy, and digital innovation within the SIDS regions, including in the Pacific region.
The OPEC Fund Development Forum concluded this evening. As SIBC News understands, Solomon Islands was the only Pacific Island country to participate in this event. The Judicial Symposium 2025, co-hosted by the Pacific Islands Foreign Fisheries Agency and the Chief Justice of Solomon Islands, the Honourable Sir Albert Palmer, has officially commenced. Simon Tavake attended the event and files this story.
The Judicial Symposium 2025, co-hosted by the Pacific Islands Foreign Fisheries Agency FFA and the Chief Justice of Solomon Islands, the Honourable Sir Albert Palmer, officially commenced today at the FFA Conference Centre in Honiara. This three-day event brings together Chief Justices from across the region, including Kiribati, the Marshall Islands, Papua New Guinea, Samoa and Tuvalu, alongside special guest Judge Kathy Ann Brown of Jamaica, a judge of the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, ITLOS. Held under the theme Recent Developments in International Fisheries Law, the symposium aims to enhance understanding of evolving legal frameworks governing fisheries at national, regional and international levels. In his opening remarks, Sir Albert Palmer highlighted the importance of the theme, describing it as both timely and essential for addressing current challenges in fisheries governance and legal enforcement.
The theme for this year's symposium, Recent Developments in International Fisheries Law, is both timely and necessary. International fisheries law, as a subfield of the law of the sea, is an evolving area of public international law. It deals with legal regimes governing fisheries within national jurisdictions and in areas beyond national jurisdiction, linking closely with international environmental law, marine environmental law, natural resource governance, and even international trade law.
Sir Albert Palmer added that the symposium serves as a platform to reinforce the collective responsibility of the judiciary to foster innovation in response to emerging environmental and legal challenges.
As we confront growing challenges, illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, the impacts of climate change on fish stocks, and increasing pressures on marine biodiversity, it is imperative that our judiciaries remain vigilant, informed, and interconnected. This symposium is more than an academic exercise. It is a platform to reinforce our collective responsibility, to deepen our regional legal coherence, and to inspire judicial innovation in the face of emerging environmental and legal complexities.
The event is scheduled to conclude this Friday. Simon Tavake, SIBC TV.
The risk to external debt distress for Solomon Islands has gradually reduced since 2024. This was revealed in the World Bank's latest Pacific Economic Update report, a semi-annual flagship publication aimed at informing policymakers, development partners and key stakeholders about economic trends and development issues in the Pacific. Andrea Ma'ahanoa with more on this story.
The country's risk to debt distress has gradually reduced since last year, indicating a positive step forward for the country. This was highlighted in the World Bank's Pacific Economic Update, Employ Women, Empower the Pacific, a strategy for uncertain times report that was launched in Honiara on Tuesday.
So compared to last year, the Solomon Islands risk of external debt distress has been lowered from moderate to low. So we had a discussion on the heat map where Solomon Islands now shows with a low risk of external debt distress. And that means there is an opportunity, a window of opportunity to invest, while at the same time it's important to maintain debt and fiscal sustainability. So that's one notable change compared to last year.
Solomon Islands' external debt distress rating is due to improved export performance. However, the country continues to face high public debt levels. The report has indicated that public debt levels have risen by 2 percentage points to 22.3% of GDP to fund the fiscal deficit incurred in 2024. Approximately 60% of the country's public debt is held domestically.
If there's more spending than revenue coming in, there is going to be a fiscal deficit, which means that there's a need for borrowing. So we're going to compare that fiscal deficit from last year with pre-pandemic levels, which was 2018, 2019. But that year was a very specific year for Solomon Islands, where there was a slight surplus due to increased logging revenues. So that's partly explaining the difference. And again, fiscal deficits are related to public debt. So if a country continues to make fiscal deficit, that's also going to increase the debt levels, the public debt levels. And that's what you want to control and make sure that public debt levels are sustainable. And that the borrowing you do is actually for productive purposes. So if a government borrows, that it invests in roads, infrastructure that can drive economic growth. So the investments they make, which actually ties to the previous report with it, generate good economic returns.
Andrea Ma'ahanwa for SIBC TV.
The Solomon Islands Planned Parenthood Association SIPA is undergoing its first Gender Equality, Disability and Social Inclusion GEDSI Analysis Workshop in Honiara this week. The training is an opportunity for staff and volunteers to identify barriers undermining access to information and services offered by SIPA.
So as a member association of International Planned Parenthood Federation, one of our roles as Secretariat is to support our members in building their capacity. And so it's really important to provide this facilitation to work with the SIPA team and build their capacity to identify and address any barriers to accessing their services. SIPA does such amazing work without the communities throughout Solomon Islands, and this is really about us supporting them to really work with the communities and really address their needs, particularly around sexual and reproductive health.
Outcomes and recommendations of the GEDSI analysis will go towards developing an action plan enabling the organization to boost its inclusiveness in the long run.
By the end of this, we should have a budgeted cost too, where a lot of recommendations where we follow put them in place. We should get a budgeted cost. We also buy a work plan, not only for next year, but moving forward, we'll have a longer term recommendations that we must work out towards, and to be more inclusive, normal lot programs from Ifala and looking how the power imbalance between men, women, as well as people with disabilities, getting the different impacts of people, or kind of the services we ought to take them, especially in terms of sexual and reproductive health.
The GEDSI Analysis Workshop is supported by the International Planned Parenthood Federation's Pacific New VACA strategy with funding support from Australia and New Zealand. Moving on to our next story. The Anglican Church of Melanesia, ACOM, held an education symposium on Tuesday, granting partners and stakeholders an opportunity to reflect on successes, identify challenges, and discuss ways to transform education in the country. Alex Dadamu attended the event and files this story.
The Anglican Church of Melanesia, ACOM, held an education symposium on Tuesday at the Canon Desmond Proberts Hall in Honiara. Held under the theme Rethinking ACOM's Education Philosophy to Build Thriving and Resilient Communities and Nation, the symposium brings together partners and stakeholders in the education sector.
This one, we call him now ACOM Education Symposium. Draws together every educational stakeholders, retired teachers, some reps from USP, some reps from SINU, from National University, some fella come all the way from Vanuatu Education Department, some fella public servants, entrepreneurs, Ministry of Women, Youth, USP, come together for drum up now some fella educational plans, strategies, and way forward for ACOM education for the next 50 years. Now, ACOM have been traveled a very long way since missionary days yet. There is no such symposium or to just run for the nama or plans for the missionaries before. Now, email of 21st century and the world is moving ahead. So this was symposium and way for Mapum now, future below ACOM education for the next 50 years.
Archbishop of Central Melanesia, Right Reverend Leonard Dawea, emphasized the need to work together to achieve transformation in the ACOM education sector.
With the beginning of the implementation of the New Education Act 2023, it is timely that our ACOM education system is aligned and reformed to meet the ever-changing times ahead of our current and future generations. This means that we can progress many of the much-needed reforms that have all helped to identify as constraints and barriers in our ACOM education system. To achieve the transformation our communities, church, and the countries deserve, there will be change. This change will require new thinking, new mindsets and actions. It will require working together to find the solutions within the legislative framework, education strategies, plans and policies that will build a more resilient and improved ACOM education system.
Meanwhile, Deputy Chairman of the Planning and Implementation Committee of the John Coleridge Patterson University, Dr. Derek Sikua, highlights the significance of such symposium.
As an organization, ACOM as an education provider, he must got him a clear plan on how he would like to go forward, say in the next 50 years. As the church has come 50 years this year, going forward, it needs to have a strategic plan to go forward for the next 50 years. So the importance of Symposium for laying out the approach, how church can go forward, involvement for providing education for people like me, Los Solomon Islands, and be very important.
The Education Symposium is the first to be held by the church after more than 20 years. Alex Dadamu for SIBC TV.
And in regional news, we turn our focus to Fiji, where the Women in Media Inaugural Conference 2025 has successfully concluded. Andrea Ma'ahanua reports.
The Women in Media Inaugural Conference 2025 concluded today in Suva, Fiji. Held under the theme Resilience in a Rapidly Evolving Media Landscape, the conference brought together women in media from across the Pacific region to discuss issues faced in the industry. The issues ranged from long working hours, which negatively affect time spent with children, domestic violence, abuse on social media, and ways to empower women in the media space. Island Sun news reporter Indi Mailasia participated in the conference and shared her experience with SIBC News.
For me, as a young journalist from Solomon Islands, this Fala conference is the first of its kind in the Pacific, and also it's the first of its kind for me attending. So me looking also about very informative, very interesting, and also lokakamblo mi lo this Fala conference. I think that time ba me go back lo country lo me. Bami take my staka tips and make me seleva building up to this self-confidence for me seleva. For me sabe how for report effectively time return back to newsroom lo me lo Honiara.
The conference was hosted by Women in Media Fiji with funding support from PACMAS. Andrea Ma'ahanua for SIBC TV.
And that's news. Follow us on sibconline.com.sb and our SIBC News Facebook page for more of our latest stories. Thanks for watching.